Well, welcome back to day 2, the part 2, about house hacking and building wealth. As we approach our fourth quarter, the fourth quarter is the one quarter of our life where we get to relax and do the things we want to do, but we want to prepare and make sure we have the funds and the ability and the freedom to do the things we want to do in the fourth quarter of our lives. So whether you're 40, 50, 60, or even 70, I think there's some things that you might find interesting if you're in that preparation time to making sure that you're safe and secure and have the freedom to do the things you want to do. I'm Dawn, and this is the fourth quarter. So in this second part, we're going to talk more about house hacking. And house hacking is a new-ish term for using some part of your home to help fund your mortgage and the costs you have associated. Maybe you only have insurance and taxes that you have associated with and maybe the overhead of your electric, gas, sewer, that kind of thing. Or maybe you have the whole deal to really look at and to deal with as you are looking to fund the fourth quarter. And your house is an asset. It's more than just an asset that you pay taxes on. It's more than an asset that you have equity built into it. It also is an asset where you have things that you can leverage for cash. So whether you are interested in renting a bedroom down the hallway, or renting out your garage, or renting out a casita, a mother-in-law apartment, there are portions of your home that you can use as income and wealth builder. And a lot of people do this. A lot of young people do this around flipping homes and just like in the university level. But we're going to talk about doing it as a more mature person, especially a mature woman. I've done this for 30 years off and on, mostly on. I worked for nonprofits, and for a goodly portion of my adult life, I was a single mom. I married, and even after I married the second time, I still did it with my husband. Then for a time, we didn't house hack. We had other rentals, but we didn't house hack. And then now we're house hacking again, because like you, we're thinking about, what do we want to do in the fourth quarter? How do we want to have more freedom? I'm 8 years younger than my husband, so he's fully retired. We don't have massive income. How do we maximize our income and make sure we're able to do the things we want to do, as he's already retired and I am not close to that yet, I don't think. I'm 60, so I have years and I like to keep busy. So I'll probably not retire like he did at 65. So how do we help fund our travel and keep things building wealth as we age? House hacking. So one of the questions that's pretty common as you're doing this sort of thing is, what about privacy? And what about people I don't like in my home? Well, that is a thing you have to consider, and you have to consider it very thoughtfully. And I want to make sure that you know, I am not a financial advisor, and I am not even a real estate agent. I used to be for about 10 years as a sideline. Mostly I work with nonprofits. I've always worked with nonprofits in management, but I did for about 10 years sell real estate as an accompaniment to my nonprofit income, because that's usually lower than most people like. And so I do know somewhat. I know enough to be dangerous, as they say, about real estate. So we'll talk about real estate, but I always refer back to, please seek advice from your professionals that you are associated with, that you trust, financial advisors, and in people perhaps involved in real estate in your area, and your cities, your counties, and your homeowners associations, if you have one, around anything that we're talking about here. But that's part of preparing for what you want to do. First, you have to decide, at what level of house hack do you want to dip your toe into? At what level do you need to build wealth. And then you can say, what part of my assets do I want to share with others? A great example is I rent an extra garage out to a car enthusiast for his vintage car. It's not that much money. It's $200 a month. It's something though. I appreciate him and I appreciate he's a good renter. He doesn't invade my private space. It's not a garage my husband and I were using. So we had that luxury of renting out that garage to a car enthusiast. Another area that I have done is rent out an extra bedroom. Now, we were talking about privacy. That was a big concern to me. It worked out great. Have I heard of it not working out great? Yes, I have. I have a friend who rented out to a married Chinese student couple. And she didn't put very good boundaries around her public space. And they used flash frying in her very nice kitchen. And she felt that that was a hindrance to her and that it was a horrible mess to clean up. And it made her house smell awful. When she had only booked with them 3 months. When they were gone, she didn't want to do it ever again. But here's something that might have worked better for her. She did have a very large garage and she doesn't really use it for the vehicles. She has a lot of stuff in there. She does have pets. She could have put an extra stove out in the garage and asked the couple to cook their flash frying out in the garage. That's one way of setting up a boundary and making sure that your space has the tools it needs to accommodate the sharing partnership that you are embarking on. So it is a give and take. How much do you really want to share? What's the value you are needing and where do you want to draw those lines? And how do you accommodate the needs of others within your space to build your wealth? All very good questions and things you have to personally really look into. Another area, and I've got some notes here, another area to really reflect on is, here, let me get my notes ready. We're going to talk a little bit about, just as we did, making accommodations that are attractive to those that you're sharing the space with. One would be renovating. Do you want to renovate? You don't have to renovate. I didn't renovate. I have renovated for a Airbnb or short-term rental. You can use VRBO. You can do short-term rental without any app at all. If you say, you have a working relationship, say with a construction company. Do you have, say, a basement apartment that you want to do short-term rental with and you want to only work with construction companies, so you fix it up, you're not going to pay for any renovation, you already say have a kitchen in it, you might already have a fully functioning bathroom enough, say for 2 bedrooms, and to have 2 beds, 2 bedrooms, functioning bathroom, functioning kitchen. Not flashy, but you've scrubbed it as clean as possible and it has all of the cooking utensils and everything that it needs to accommodate a 3 or 4 night stay of construction workers that are migratory, they're coming in. In my instance, this apartment that you see here, I'm renting that to construction workers during the week that are building a new high school in the area. So that's very convenient for them and very convenient for me. The price is right. They get a per diem. So my cost to them is much lower than their per diem, and they are keeping the majority of their per diem. So they don't want to spend all their per diem at, the local hotel. They want to spend as little of their per diem, but yet be comfortable as possible. So that's the trade-off. something in it for them, something in it for you. We enjoy them. They're good guests. And I did not have to renovate to make that. I did paint. This cedar paneling that's on the walls has had many coats of paint over the years. It's been an apartment probably since the 50s. And I put a new really nice coat of paint over everything. Everything is very clean, new appliances. So there was, I could say, a budget that was needed for it. But do you need renovations? Say you had a basement apartment like this, but you have everything but a kitchenette in it. Do you have a full working kitchenette? Or do you want to just have microwave only? Maybe you just provide a hot plate and microwave only, and you could provide dishwashing services. You could provide laundry services. So you might have to budget if you wanted to do a sink and make sure that there was just a small kitchenette like you might have in a longer stay hotel. So there might be some cost if you wanted to do that. You'd earn more if you did that. It depends on what you want to go in depth on. Furnishing the rooms. You make more if you furnish everything. Even on a spare bedroom, you would make more. Also, your comfort level of what you want to have as a renter. When I was a single woman, I wasn't going to have a man rent my extra bedroom, but I would have a man rent my basement apartment with an exit and entrance that had nothing to do with my home, except for that it was out of the basement and straight out from there. That I did do, but I'm not going to have, as a single woman, a man stay in my apartment, but you might feel otherwise. So when you furnish for who you would like to have stay with you. I furnished for a college student. I had female. So I had a nice bed. I had a nice dresser. And I made sure the bathroom was acceptable to a young lady. I made sure that the Wi-Fi was something that was high enough in that a university student would be able to even play games on or make video like this on. So Wi-Fi might be a consideration for you. And utilities, usually on these kind of house hacks, are included in the overall. Some people, I have experienced some people who have split their utilities 50-50, say. I've not done that, and it's not the norm, but it's a possibility. It depends on what your market can bear. And that brings me to the next one. What can your market give you? You might fluctuate. So during the university, say if you live near a university, you might rent to a graduate student or multiple graduate students. I don't know how big your home is. Maybe you want to rent to 2 or 3 within a certain paradigm, right? A certain structure that you, like not 18-year-olds, you could rent to 18-year-olds, but it's up to you. I rented to graduate student. If I'd had extra bedrooms, say 2 or 3, and I didn't have a small son living with me, I might have rented 2 or 3 bedrooms to graduate students, making sure I had my private space away from them, but that would help me wealth build. But then after you are in the university time, you could flip it in the summertime and do Airbnb. Maybe in the summertime you want to travel with and see your family, or maybe just go to Europe, in the summertime. That's high peak season for Airbnbs, and really no matter where you live, you could rent your home, make your private space secure. We do have that set up here in this home. We have a lock on our master bedroom, and we would be able to lock that and rent out the other portion, including the basement. So a secondary master upstairs and the basement could be rented out Airbnb if we chose to travel, say, overseas and just rent for that time frame. Now, short-term rental is what we think of for Airbnb, but you can do long-term rental, which is 30 plus days through Airbnb also. So you might look into that on how you would do a 30 plus day stay by the room on Airbnb. Usually you would get traveling nurses. I've had that a lot, actually. When I went to long-term, what we did with the long-term on Airbnb was we were in a situation where the city where we were living said, we're going to regulate Airbnb. So you can't have any short-term stays. And I said, can we have 30 plus days? He goes, yes, you can rent it traditionally. I said, can it be 30 plus day stays within the app? Because it might be a 6-week stay by a nurse or something like that, but it would be 30 plus days. He goes, well, legally you're covered there for them at that time. Always check, because I asked the zoning person and planning person that I was talking to, and they said, yes, we could do that. So I made our Airbnb stay length over 30 days. It worked great. We had quite a few traveling nurses, a couple of grad students who came to stay during their summer internship. It took quite a long time to get the city to figure this out. It was a good 6 months. We had some construction workers, like I spoke about. Oh, at Christmas time, we had some people who were setting up big booths at the malls. We had really, really good response on that. The city finally figured it out, and we took it back to short term because we earned a little bit more when we did it that way. Now, this is an Airbnb that I did not live in, but you can do that with a house share situation where you are just doing short-term or long-term stays in your own home, an extra room, as opposed to the whole house with Airbnb. So that is a possibility. You can also do that there's a app that works with nurses only. So you can do that. Or you can just go talk to your local hospital and ask them to be on the list for traveling nurses and doctors. That is a thing. You can ask to be put on the list for that. So yes, short-term and long-term rental considerations. So thinking about your strategy. And private entrances when possible. You can have that or not have that, but it does make it much easier if they have a private entrance. So let's talk about, how do you actually get started? First, research your market. That's what we were talking about. What works best in your market? Check the rental rates. Go be nosy on Airbnb on rates for something that you have similar. If you're wanting to, say, rent the portion of your garage or do the pool rental with, I think the app is called Splash, or if you want to rent your acreage out for weddings, check the area. First and foremost, always study your zoning laws. See if what you want to do is legal and available where you live. Second, go look at the rates. How much are others getting for similar? You may be the only one looking for what you want to do, but you can extrapolate on what others are doing. And then research, if you're going to go buy something to do this, set your parameters for what you're looking for, and then look for mortgage options. Now, I know that the VA loans allow you to have up to a 4 unit, and you have to live on it. And FHA is the same. You can get an FHA loan, but not FHA isn't for Farm Home Administration, it's through the USDA. It is not everywhere. But interestingly, like around the Kansas City area, there are more and more little pockets that you don't really think of as farm area that they're allowing into the FHA program. And you don't have to have a farm. It is just a rural economic development program. So I live in a small Kansas university town of approximately 25,000 people. FHA is possible in our area. So look into different mortgage options. And I always suggest, back when I was a realtor, but I do now too, to all the friends and family who ask, get a hold of a smaller bank, a locally owned bank, and let them know what you're thinking of doing. And they'll be able to help you through that process. They may say, hey, you have too low a credit to do something like this. You have a couple of other options, and we'll expand upon those in other videos, but a couple thoughts that come to my mind that I have used are a partnership. Partnering with another person that has better credit, and they're actually the loan holder, and then you are the partner in the endeavor. So their good credit allows you, so you could partner with someone. Second, and you need to go through your banker and talk about these opportunities. And second would be a private loan. And I've done a private loan, which is just the person that owns it. In a very unusual situation, this person actually came to me, quite elderly, and needing to actually have a surgery that she was very worried about. And she asked my opinion, and then at the end of our coffee, she asked me if I would like to hold the private loan and take over her rental property. I was surprised at the moment, and then it was a blessing, and I did eventually do that. Now, you can approach someone who is, say, 20 years your senior. Suppose you're 50, and then you know of some people, or you've researched that some rental property is owned by folks in their 70s. You can do a private. Now, you would go through a lawyer to do this, and you should speak to your personal financial advisor about this, your banker. Now, your banker wants to earn your mortgage, but they're going to understand if you do a short-term private, and then when you have earned your equity and built a record of good payment over, say, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, then you would do a balloon payment to the private equity. What's in it for them? They could just put it on the market. Right now, we're in a good phase with real estate. Why should they do that? Well, they can get certain tax benefits for doing that. They don't have to pay the taxes on their profit until they get the profit. So if they only are getting a monthly payment, then they're only paying taxes on that monthly payment, and they don't have to take care of the property. You own the property, they just own a loan. So there are there are several different ways that you can actually get property within to your ownership, and even with issues, even with difficulties. So chat and make friends, network with a local banker. Let them know what your plan is and what you would like to do if you don't already own the property. So we've talked about zoning, laws, and regulations. Always be transparent and always reach out and see what's allowed. If you already own your property or you're searching for a property, talk about what are those regulations within those properties abilities. And then check how much people are getting for different things. How much is regular rent in your area? How much is short-term rental versus long-term? And when I mean long-term, you're going to earn more off of a 6-week than a 6-month, because they're not able to get those properties that are 6-month. They're also not furnished. You're offering furnished plus utilities. You're offering convenience, so you get paid at a higher rate. And then research your finance opportunities. Run the numbers. That's what we've been talking about. But do a little spreadsheet, and you won't regret doing a spreadsheet and saying, what are my expenses? What is my income? What is my income over a year? What is my income over 5 years? Because you want what's best for you. What's best for me isn't going to be what's best for you. Factor in maintenance costs. If you're purchasing a property, and we'll expound upon many of these topics as we move forward, but if you're purchasing a property, you must have an inspection. Of course, your mortgage company is going to want you to have an inspection, but what if you did a private mortgage? That owner, it's not in their best interest to have an inspection. It's in your best interest. And let that inspector know that you are wanting to know all expenses that are coming up. And they will be your partner and be there for the inspection and work that into the sale. When we bought this home, they said they would consider putting a new roof on. Well, believe me, they put a new roof on. But also in the inspection, we found out that there was a cracked sewage pipe under the other side that doesn't have a basement, and raw sewage had been dripping into the soil underneath the house. So all of that had to be taken care of on their dime, not my dime. We did buy through a realtor. We did do a VA loan, but we went over this house with a fine-tooth comb and asked for as much as we could with the sale. We found things afterward. This was a distressed property. We found things afterward that we had to pay for, but our price did give us the leeway to do that because we had asked for a price for a distressed property. But we also asked for things to be fixed, and they were fixed. That won't always be possible, depending on the market. You have to be flexible if you're buying something. If this had fallen through, I'd have just stepped back and waited for another property that would have 3 units that would be within our price range, that we would be wanting very specific parameters in order to build wealth and the quality of life that we needed to enter the 4th quarter of our life and enjoy it. So be prepared to back up and use plan B, because that could happen. Things might work out, but also they might not work out. But be prepared to be flexible. People who are flexible, people who are adaptable are the happiest people. So it might not be for you if you can't see yourself as flexible around a house hack. Look for properties that are in areas that this sort of setup are in high demand. And universities, major employers that with fluctuating in and out, a tech industry nearby, a health industry like a hospital nearby, good public transportation if they need that. In our little burg, our university town, we don't have good public transportation. We do have Uber. Most people who stay here have their own vehicle, and that it's just our market versus your market. Popular neighborhoods are also something to think on. You know, popular neighborhoods many times have HOAs, but are you on the outskirts of a popular neighborhood where people would want to visit the area. Historic downtowns say you might be downtown. Sometimes you own a commercial property, but the upstairs has never been rented out. You might consider remodeling the upstairs. I know many people who do that on historic areas. So the downstairs is, say, a dress store, and the upstairs is an Airbnb. So being thoughtful about where you are or where you might be is important. Common mistakes. We're going to talk about the bad stuff. Not screening tenants appropriately. Screening is very important. Trust your gut. If you get a feeling that you would not be happy sharing a space with this person, then don't. But also be fair. You ask this person to fill out an application and read it through. Get 3 references. You know, when I do my rentals, I even tell people, I say, you'll be surprised how even your closest family will tell the truth when I call them. So I'm okay with you putting a family member on there. I'm okay with you putting your banker on there, your school teacher. I'm okay with you putting your boss or your ex-boss on your application. I'm okay with anyone that you would like to put as 3 references, because I'm going to ask them how they know you. I'm going to ask them how comfortable would you be sharing a home with them, and then be quiet and let the person speak and really listen to them. They may sound Pollyannish, but they may also be hedging. So ask them a question around the hedging. You may feel super comfortable after talking to 3 people that they felt comfortable putting them down as your references. I have found that is a very good signal that this person is someone I would like to rent to. But do your due diligence and do an application process. I always have an application process with my rentals, whether it is a long-term rental house or a short-term bedroom rental that I have done. One other area is underestimating maintenance costs. And I have been caught by this, and there's really no way to, for sure, ensure that you don't get caught on this. But I recommend $3,000 to $5,000 in savings. Set back in case there's something bad happens. Sometimes you can be a part of a program, like in our area, we have a lower energy program where you can fund an air conditioner, heater, and water heater, for instance, in a package that's put in that's low maintenance. I shouldn't say low maintenance. It's lower energy usage, and then you pay for it with a very low interest rate through your energy bill. I have done this several times with my rentals and my personal property. So if you have a problem where your heater is going to be a problem, you might look in to see if your energy company has a program like that. It's a great way of funding and getting that infrastructure in a home really top notch as you move into your 4th quarter. Other maintenance costs. I have had a structural issue with a house that I've bought and had to deal with that. Don't be afraid, but it might hit you sideways. The most expensive on that for me, that I dealt with was $10,000. And I did have to pull out an equity loan on my mortgage for that rental to fund it. But what was I going to do? I had a structural problem. So that's something that can go sideways. If you've lived in your home for a long time, you probably are completely aware of the issues within your home. So saving up $3,000 to $5,000 as a reserve fund is very important. And if you're buying a home, your inspection is super important. Ignoring local regulations. That'll get you in a ringer every time. I have never ignored local regulations that I know of. I have always reached out. I can't think of a time that I haven't reached out. My very first opportunity to do an Airbnb was in this community. It was before anyone was doing it. And I reached out to our local city and zoning. And I was at first told no, because we'd have to be in an area that had boarding house regulations, and we didn't live in that area. So my mother-in-law apartment couldn't be Airbnb'd. And then I made a friend. I networked with someone on the community member that's on as a committee member on the zoning and regulations and zoning and planning. He said, let me research it for you. He came back and he said, no, they're wrong. Just that you are zoned for rentals. And I can back that up with some research. And so making a friend and networking helped me out there. And we were approved for that then. Now there are Airbnbs, too many of them actually, in our community. But that was the first. So ignoring local regulations. Ignoring an HOA can really get you in trouble. Don't do that. Don't slip it in under say, hey, we're just renting out your extra bedroom and this is all hush-hush. Or doing an Airbnb where people have to pretend to be your cousin. I say no. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Follow all regulations and do your research. If you are unfamiliar on how to do your research, go over to the public library and ask them how to research this. I'll bet you they'd be willing to help. I've never had a problem that my public library couldn't at least point me in the right direction. I can point you in the right direction. Put a question in the comments if you are wondering, how do I start researching this if I'm going to be going against regulations? In the instance where the Airbnb that I was speaking of that suddenly wanted to regulate our Airbnbs, we were well within our rights of Airbnb. We had regulated and we had gone through the process, and the city knew where we were. So they knew where we were in order to say, we really like you to not short-term rental while we figure out what we want to do as a city. And it wasn't this city, it was a different city. And so we said, okay, we followed their regulations. We did clarify and ask, can we do long-term rental while you do that? And so we just turned on Airbnb, like I said, our short-term rental to long-term, 30-day or more, that suited their regulations, and we were renting to a different sector, which is a good sector. I really enjoyed doing that and was surprised at the need in that sector. So follow your local regulations. And then the other two that I have on my list are setting your rent too high or too low, and you'll get a feel for that. You really will. But the more research you go around, you won't rent if you've got it too high. You will rent perhaps to people that might take advantage of you if you set it too low. I've had a situation where I did set it a discount on Airbnb too low, and I ended up attracting someone who was doing something illegal. It was person taking a car apart in the garage to resell the parts. It was illegal. They got arrested because we turned them in, but we had set it on pretty steep discount because we were afraid. It was pandemic, right? So we backed up and did a partnership with the hospital during the pandemic that we discounted if you could prove that you were in the medical field and you wanted to quarantine from your family after your work. And that worked out great. But before we did that, we had this problem with this illegal entity that were taking apart cars in our garage, which also left oil stains in my garage. This is not one that I house hacked. This was an Airbnb, but it's an example of not having the people that you're comfortable with stay with you because you got it so cheap. So then not having proper insurance. We insure through Shelter, and they know the ones that are Airbnb, and if we have and our regular rentals. So I do recommend Shelter insurance, but there are many forms of Airbnb and house rental insurance. But you really must tell your home insurance provider what you're doing, because that will dictate the type of insurance they offer you. Okay. Remember that house hacking isn't just about saving money. It's about building wealth, using your assets to the best of your abilities as you're working towards a goal. So knowing what your goal is, what your wealth building goal is, what are you trying to do with that income, and then moving forward accordingly. Also know that I'm able to do this because you are watching. So I hope that you'll like and subscribe to the fourth quarter, and we'll keep going down this road and sharing more knowledge that I have, and maybe invite a few people in who have far greater knowledge than I have to answer some of your questions around how do I build the wealth that I need to have the quality of life that I want in the fourth quarter of my life. So if you want to learn more, please let me know. If you have specific questions, please let me know. And I hope that you'll like and subscribe to this channel that I'm building around making sure we enjoy our fourth quarter together. And I really appreciate you watching and listening to what I have to say.